Hello, everyone. It's Brian here, back in Toronto. Although most of you didn't know I had gone anywhere, but we were about a 2-hour drive north of Toronto, where it was much colder and where they had much, much more snow. So I think I'm still warming up, which is why I'm wearing this sweater. But it was at some points down to minus 25. So it was very, very cold. In fact, walking from the room we had to the building that had the dining area was not very long, but it was very cold. So it was a mix of work and not work things happening there. People were also, well, not from our group, people were on the lake, ice fishing. There was cross-country skiing happening, although I bowed out of that. I didn't go snowshoeing either or skate on the lake because I was feeling a little cold. Let's put it that way. So that was fun. But cold. Anyway, this, I guess, is almost like a recent finds video because I just wanted to show you a couple of things I got before I went up and what I did with some free time that I had when I was up there. So before I left town, I went back to that store where I bought this Clash box for half price. And I saw another box set that I guess I overlooked. And I don't really need this because I have all of the original vinyl pressings and I have all the CDs from this band, but I saw this compact disc edition of the Led Zeppelin box set and I guess I'm a sucker for box sets and it was $15. It's in pretty good shape. It does have a bit of shelfware or, because someone had this in their collection, I suppose, but it's in very good shape. And I think you all know about this set. The booklet's in great shape. 4 CDs are in good shape as well. Did I need this? As I said, no, but I just had a hard time resisting it for that price. So I grabbed it. And it was I think that was an excellent price. I might be wrong with that, but I think that was a really good price. So that's one thing. And then another thing I picked up recently and didn't mention before was this Grace Jones record Inside Story from 1986. Grace Jones was someone that was introduced to me by my brother. I had a brother who was a year and a half older than me. He died about 3 years ago. And it was kind of a strange relationship because he brought some really good music into the house that I liked. Like, for example, Gary Newman. He bought The Pleasure Principle. I can't remember if he bought the previous one from Two-Way Army. But he also brought a lot of disco queens into the house. So all their records, not the actual disco queen. So it was kind of brutal in some respects because at the time I was not interested in disco. I'm quite happy to listen to Donna Summer now. I find her music more interesting now than I did then. But it was frustrating. He had this weird mix of really great music, a fascination with Elvis Presley, which was okay. This record's probably best known for I'm Not Perfect, But I'm Perfect for You. Here's the inner sleeve. I do have a couple other Grace Jones records, and if they're reasonably priced, I'd be interested in getting them. Here's the label. Very interesting. So that was fun. Can't remember what I paid for this. But it's good. I do like her. And I'm having a hard time getting this back in here. So that's Grace Jones. And then, I guess my ongoing story of my relationship with thrift stores because 10 years ago I was finding great things in thrift stores. And then it's been a bit of a dry spell with some... occasionally I'll find something, but this is something unexpected. This is a record by the band called Grays. It's called Outer Heaven. And this was a sealed copy in the thrift store. So it was a couple bucks. So bizarre. It's a Toronto band. This is their second. Their first record was, I guess you'd say a punk record, hardcore punk, very noise punk band. They mellowed out for this record. It's more of a post-punk, maybe even indie rock. I mean, there's certainly guitars here, and you'll certainly notice them, but I couldn't believe it. It was sitting there sealed for thrift store prices, which was very strange to me. Let's get some Canada Grant information on there. It came with a download code, but the download code didn't work, the card here, because I guess the record is from 2016, and I guess maybe it expired. Not a very Toronto scene there. And there are the guys here. I don't know anything about this band other than what I just told you. And I've only listened to it once. There's the label. So that was a curious find. I'm not sure how I rate it because, as I said, I've only been through it once, but we'll see how it goes. But a sealed contemporary record for that price, I mean, I'd probably buy even a country record for that price. Now, and then I had some time, so I traveled to Orillia. A friend of mine was up there at the same time. And before I went to meet him, I stopped, as you may have noticed in the previous video that I included in this presentation. I stopped at a thrift store, and you may have noticed I flipped past a lot of Kenny Rogers records and others. You'll note them there, Charlie Pride, etc. And you may be wondering if I bought any of those records, and the answer is, I'm sorry, I didn't buy any of those records. I as I've mentioned many times, and to the chagrin of people like MGK, whatever, I just never liked country music, and I still don't. And I'm also running out of space, so I'm not going to buy records that I'm not going to listen to. So it would just take up space. Now, I possibly should have bought them to bring them back and give them away. I didn't even bother to check the condition of those records. So I was curious about the Marty Robbins one I saw, but it was in rough shape. So the other ones looked to be okay. So I'm sorry about not buying those. I'm sure some people are disappointed, but I just couldn't do it. So we did go to a record store in downtown Orillia called Alley Cats Records. I think it's the only record store in town. Quite a big store. And after I left, I realized I didn't take any video of me, flipping through the bins. I took a couple of photographs, which I included. You'll see an image of James Dean and then some still photos from the store. I did buy two things there. The first was an upgrade to a copy of a record that I've had for decades, and that is Genesis, Selling England by the Pound. My copy on the first track, Dancing with the Moonlit Night, there's some sort of, I guess it's a scratch really, on the first track, and so it clicks as to the first 10 or 15 revolutions. It's really irritating. I've lived with that for a very long time, and so I got this one, which was only, I think, $12, and every time I see this record in Toronto, it's far more expensive. Of course, there's many different presses. This is the one that doesn't have the printed inner sleeve. Some of them do. But this one has a few little crackly sounds here and there, but I think overall it's a far better copy than the one I had. And you've all seen this label before, I'm sure. This is one of my two favorite Genesis records, so I grabbed that. 1973 on the famous Charisma label. Very cool. And then this record store had a good selection of used and new records, and quite a lot of things that were, I guess, cheapies, but they looked in pretty good shape. So we didn't spend hours there because, I had other things to do. But I was looking through the old RSD stock, and I found something that I'd been looking for, whatever this came out in 2024 RSD, and could never find it in Toronto. A couple stores apparently had copies, and they disappeared, so I just assumed I would never get it. But there, sitting in the bin, was this Billy Bragg Bloke on Bloke. Well, is it an EP or an LP? I think it says more from the William Bloke sessions. There are 7 tracks. I guess it's probably an EP. Originally 1996. I have this on CD, of course, but I have this feeling that I need to own everything that Billy Bragg ever released on vinyl, and I think I do, actually. There's one thing I'm missing. So here we go, Cooking Vinyl. It's weird, though, that they release this. I was thinking about Record Store Day, and the record that this is associated with is William Bloke. Now, I do have an original copy of that from back in the day, which is really difficult to find, but they released this and not William Bloke. I'm sure a lot of Billy Bragg fans were disappointed by that. And it's on a curious color, so it's this kind of split color here. But this is a pretty solid record. It kind of goes with the feel of William Bloke. It has The Boy Done Good, Qualifications, Sugar Daddy, great song. A cover of a Smiths track, Never Had No One Ever, which is curious. Another version of Sugar Daddy, Rule Nor Reason, and Thatcherites. Pretty good thing. I was happy to find that. I thought I'd never own it. And it was on sale, believe it or not. And then, after lunch, we departed. I went back north, but I stopped at he recommended a antique mall. And I went in there, and there were quite a few people selling records. Now, the first room I went into was a separate room dedicated to one vendor and it was filled with records. It had massive amounts of records in lots of proper record store bins at the right height you could flip through. And I don't know, there might have been 25 or 30, maybe more than that, bins of just stuff, but it had no order to it at all. So you'd find like Pearl Jam, the next record would be like Engelbert Humperdinck. It was just bizarre. That was one irritating thing. So I just didn't have the patience to flip through every single bin. There was stuff on the floor too. It would just been a nightmare. No rhyme or reason to it. The second thing is that they were really, really expensive, like way more expensive than you would have guessed. Like I'd look at a record and say, oh, that's pretty good, but it would be double what I think the record would be worth. But I then walked around the rest of the antique mall, and many vendors had a milk crate or two or three or sometimes more of records. So I looked through a lot of those, and there are certain things that tempted me. Some things overpriced, some things not in great shape. So I only bought one thing there, and it's something that I'm very familiar with because it was played a lot back when I lived in residence, and that is Aztec Camera Highland Hard Rain from 1983. Yeah, 1983. Of course, I know this record inside and out because it was played to death, but Walk Out to Winter's on here, which might be their most well-known track, possibly. And someone has put it in this nice plastic sleeve. Actually, this vendor had they said they had cleaned everything ultrasonically. So that was pretty cool. And I guess they re-sleeved it. So I grabbed this because I do like this record. I have some other releases from them, but that was nice to find. I've had this on my mental list for quite a long time, but every time I see it, it's kind of a stupid price. So this was hard to beat. So that's it from my little trip up north. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.